So when we're at a big game, sometimes you might see some of these in the crowd. Who's got one of those foam fingers? I wonder, do you know what they're for? I wonder if our Bible story this week will give us any clues. Today's story comes from the book of Acts, and it's about two men. Their names are Paul and Barnabas. Can you say Paul in a whisper? Paul. And can you say Barnabas in your best cheerleader voice? Barnabas! Great job. Barnabas was a great teammate for Paul because he encouraged him. Let's see what happens. The story is from Acts chapter 9. Paul went to a city called Jerusalem. There he wanted to team up with a group of believers who followed Jesus, but they did not want Paul on their team because they were really afraid of him. Show me a scared face. The people on the team were afraid of Paul because he used to go by a different name, Saul, and he actually killed believers who followed Jesus. The people didn't believe that he had changed and was actually following Jesus now. Do you think you would have been afraid of Paul too? I think I would have been. But there was one man who wasn't afraid of Paul, and his name was Barnabas. Barnabas believed that Paul really had changed. He knew that Paul wanted others to learn about Jesus so they could start following him too. Because Barnabas believed Paul when others didn't, he had a chance to make a difference by encouraging Paul. Do you think Barnabas stood up for Paul or ran away from Paul? He stood up for him. Barnabas took Paul to the people. The people knew Barnabas and they trusted him. So Barnabas told the people exactly what had happened to Paul. Paul used to not believe in Jesus at all. He even said and did mean things to the people that do believe in Jesus, but one day something really incredible happened. Paul was walking down a road and out of nowhere, Jesus appeared to Paul. After he saw Jesus, Paul was completely changed. He wanted to follow Jesus and he wanted everyone else to follow Jesus too. Not only did Jesus change Paul's heart, he even changed his name. Now he would be called Paul instead of his old name, Saul. Barnabas kept the encouraging words coming. He told the apostles how Paul had been traveling to different cities to tell the crowds all about Jesus and that he wasn't even afraid of what anyone would think of him. Find someone in your bubble and give them a high five to remember that Barnabas encouraged Paul. After Barnabas said all those encouraging things about Paul and encouraged the people to believe what Paul was saying, the apostles and believers trusted Paul. They heard him talk to others about Jesus and they even started sending him to other cities. Paul was definitely a part of their team now. Do you think Paul was happy that Barnabas encouraged others to believe him? Yeah, of course. Barnabas believed Paul and said kind things about him to others. Did Barnabas encourage the believers to change their mind about Paul? Well, yeah. Barnabas had a different opinion than his friends, and sometimes it's hard to not just go along with your friends. But Barnabas knew that he needed to encourage them to change their minds. Do you know something else really cool about Barnabas? Even his name means that he was an encourager. At games, fans wear foam fingers to cheer on their team, like this. Cheering for players on your favourite team is a way to encourage them while they play a game. Perhaps if Barnabas was alive today, he'd have worn one to encourage and cheer on Paul. We can encourage others by saying kind things to them and showing them that we believe in them. When we encourage others, it may even help them feel more prepared to do their part on the team. What ways can you be an encourager this week? Can you encourage your mum or your dad, your brothers or your sisters? What about your friends and classmates online? Can you encourage a grandparent, a neighbour, or grown-ups? Can you encourage the supermarket checkout assistant? Who can you be an encourager to this week? We're part of the best team ever, God's church. And when you're on a team, you can encourage others, and that's what we need to know today. On God's team, players encourage others.